A young dad brutally murdered on Father's Day.
That little girl's been robbed of the chance to know her father.
The hunt for this man suspected of raping a woman in broad daylight. And hate crime on the rise. Our expert panel revealed their own shocking stories. Live for the next hour, this is Crimewatch. Good evening and welcome to Crimewatch. We're back live for the next 60 minutes with the latest crime investigations, news and appeals.
As ever, we have our latest wanted faces. The phone lines are already open, so get in touch if you know where they are. And we need your help with some shocking CCTV, including a despicable thug attacking and robbing a pensioner with cerebral palsy.
I felt this blow, and it almost felt like the floor had come up and hit me, not the other way.
Plus, we'll reveal how a calculating killer was snared by his own mobile phone.
Back in 1995, it was very new how we used phone evidence, how we interpreted that phone evidence. 15 years on, we'd gained a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge. He actively went out of his way to give accounts that he knew were not true, so that he could prove that he was not the last person to see Jane alive.
But we begin tonight with a case that happened in June on Father's Day. This young dad, Christian Bagley, was brutally attacked and murdered after spending the day with his 18-month-old daughter. Tonight, we urgently need your help to get a dangerous killer off our streets.
It's hard to look at her and think someone took something so precious from her. You know, every day I look at her and every day she reminds me of Christian. And I am lucky to have Lara with Christian. He just adored her so much, and it's hard because she won't have that anymore.
"30-year-old Christian Bagley had lived in Hereford all his life. He had one daughter, 18-month-old Lara, but had separated from her mother, so shared custody.
I've known Christian since I was a teenager. He was very quiet, kept himself to himself.
Is that for Mummy?
He was very loving to his daughter, very laid back, wouldn't hurt a fly.
He was lovely. He was me rock. He was a brilliant dad. She was his life. That was his world when he had her.
On Sunday, the 21st of June, Father's Day, Christian left the flat he shared with his brother and went to pick up his daughter.
She'd fallen asleep and he'd come in and he woke her up and she was really happy. She had a great big smile, she'd say, "Daddy, Daddy," she'd say, and like run over to him. And then he took her to McDonald's.
Christian took the food back to Natasha's house.
We were all playing, and then it was getting a bit late.
Hi. 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 I'm gonna go and put her to bed.
It was just a really nice day. There's the happiness in Christian and Lara, you know, it's something that you just don't forget.
Oh, I love her. She's absolutely exhausted. Yeah.
He said goodbye and he said, I'll speak to you later, and off he walked down the road.
All right, then I'll see you in the week.
All right.
Christian left Natasha's at around 10:35 and began his 15-minute journey home along the river. Christian had been stabbed twice. The first strike was to his back. The second went into his left arm with so much force, the handle snapped off, leaving the blade behind. He managed to stagger to a nearby friend's house. Christian died less than an hour after the attack.
I had a phone call to say that Christian had been stabbed, and the feeling was just unbearable. It wasn't real. It couldn't be real because I hadn't long been with him. His cup was still on my table, what he drank out of. It just didn't seem real.
It's like he's gone out, got lost, and we can't find him. I can't believe he's gone. But at the minute, that's how I cope. He's coming back. He's just got lost and he'll walk through the door one day and that's the only way I can explain it. Because without him, I'm nothing.
There's lots of things I miss, really. Just little things. Kind of realise after that maybe you didn't do enough things together as you should have done.
It's horrific to think that she only gets a year and a half with her dad. I still look at pictures and think, I wish you'd just walk back through the door. You just want it so bad. But someone took him.
That little girl's been robbed of the chance to know her father. But he was so proud of her. It's so sad. He didn't deserve to die. He didn't.
Well, Detective Chief Inspector Leighton Harding is leading the investigation and he's with me now. This was a horrific attack and there's seemingly no motive either. What more can you tell us about it?
Well, we know that Christian was making his way back to the flat that he shared with his brother Wayne, and he left Natasha and Lara's house at around about 10:35 p.m. At around 10:42 p.m, he's then captured on private CCTV walking along Villa Street towards Luard Walk and then eventually Hunterton Bridge. As he passed under the bridge towards the steps, that's where he was attacked and stabbed from behind.
And he was stabbed with that weapon, the serrated knife. What more do you know about that?
That's right, he was stabbed twice with a kitchen carving knife. The first strike was into the lower left-hand side of his back, which proved to be the fatal blow. He was then stabbed a second time in the left arm, at which point the blade snapped from the handle. That the blade has been recovered by us, and that is actually the image of the blade that was used to kill Christian, and it's perhaps a chilling reminder as to the violent circumstances of Christian's death. But one key message tonight is that we are still missing that handle, and I would urge anybody with any information about what has happened to that handle or where it is to get in touch tonight.
OK, so you're still looking for that, and you want to trace some witnesses as well?
Yes, we do. At around about 10:50 p.m, we had a male that was walking along Hunterton Bridge towards Hereford Rugby Club. He's a white male and he was using or handling a mobile phone. The second male was riding a mountain bike with a flashing central light with upturned handlebars. If you recognise yourself or you know who they are, please get in touch tonight.
So those two, but also 3 men?
Absolutely. We also have sighting of 3 men that were seen running along Belmont Road towards McDonald's near to the Oval Junction between 10:40 and 11 p.m. Again, if you recognise yourselves or you know who those 3 individuals are, please get in touch tonight.
Thank you very much, Detective. You should also know that West Mercia Police is offering a £10,000 reward for any information that may lead to the arrest and conviction of Christian's killer. If you can help in any way, please do call the studio now. People are waiting for your calls here. 0500 600 600.
Time now for Wanted Faces. But first up is this man, Neil Jackson. Detectives in Derbyshire want to question him in connection with the indecent assault and rape of a young girl. This photo of Jackson was taken a number of years ago. He's now 62. Police believe he may look similar to this drawing. He has a number of tattoos on his left arm and back, including his own name. Jackson has connections to Spain, especially to Alicante. Next up is 28-year-old Fazal Hussain. Detectives in the West Midlands want to question him in relation to a large-scale disorder in which 1 man was killed and others seriously injured in July last year. Hussain has links to Birmingham and the Sparkbrook area in particular. Third up tonight, Adam Murphy, although he also uses the names Adam Murray, Hunter or Spud. He's wanted for questioning in connection with a number of explosions at cash machines in 2013. More than £1 million was stolen in these raids. Murphy is 30. He has a Liverpool accent, although he's known to travel across the United Kingdom, especially around Scotland. This man is described as dangerous. If you know where he is, please just dial 999. And we end for now with 41-year-old Bayo Lawrence Awanorin. He was arrested in November 2012 in relation to a conspiracy to defraud public bodies, including NHS trusts, out of more than £12 million. He was released on police bail, but has since gone missing. He's originally from Nigeria, but he's got friends in the Abbeywood and Thamesmead areas of London, and also in Redditch, Birmingham and Preston. We'll go through the rest of the lineup a little later. If you know where any of these people might be, please do get in touch using the numbers on your screen.
A roundup of the latest crime news now, and the trial of the 2 people accused of the murder of Bristol teenager Becky Watts has entered its 2nd week. The 16-year-old was last seen at her home in the St George area in February. Her body was later cut into pieces. Becky's stepbrother, 28-year-old Nathan Matthews, and his girlfriend, 21-year-old Shauna Hall, both deny her murder. Well, BBC News correspondent John Kay has been following the trial. John, what happened in court today?
Well, Sonali, today the jury here was shown a 2-hour interview that police carried out with Shauna Hall in the days after Becky disappeared. She hadn't been arrested at that time. She was being questioned as a potential witness then. And in that interview, Shauna Hall said that she and her boyfriend, Nathan Matthews, had gone to Becky's family home on that day in February. But she said she didn't see the schoolgirl. She said she heard some music playing upstairs. She heard some stomping around, heard the front door slamming, but she assumed Becky had gone off in what she described as a mood. The prosecution, though, say that they believe Nathan Matthews and Shauna Hall murdered Becky that day in what they have described as a carefully planned and sexually motivated attack. Nathan Matthews denies murder. He has admitted manslaughter. Shauna Hall has denied all knowledge and all involvement in what happened. She said the couple went back to their own home that night, a couple of miles away, that they played Monopoly together, that they ordered a takeaway. But the prosecution said what was actually going on inside that house was what they call a grotesquely executed plan to dismember Becky's body and to hide her remains in bags and boxes in a nearby garden shed. The trial will resume here tomorrow morning.
John Kay, thank you. Now, you may remember in our last programme, we featured the murder of 55-year-old Paul Massey, who was shot 5 times outside his home in Salford on the 26th of July. Well, tonight, we can exclusively reveal a very significant reward is now being offered on the case. DCI Howard Millington is here. Detective, what can you tell us? What are you announcing tonight?
I'd like to announce a £50,000 reward for information that leads to the arrest and conviction of the person or persons responsible for this brutal crime.
So a reward of £50,000. What do you know about the offender?
He's described as a slim white male wearing a fisherman's-style hat, similar to what's shown on the screen, a green or khaki long-sleeve top. He's wearing some form of a face covering also, and also dark-coloured combat trousers, which are described as quite distinctively tucked into lace-up boots, similar to these.
Tell us about his movements.
He was carrying a small black gun described as similar to a submachine gun, and he's described as, by witnesses, as coming from across from the Clifton Community Centre, across Manchester Road, to Paul's home address, which is just across the road from there. Paul had just got out of his vehicle, a silver BMW, a short time before. The offender fired a series of shots at Paul and basically left the same way that he came, going across the community centre car park towards an alleyway that runs between Clifton Community Centre and St Anne's Church. This leads out onto an open area and Clifton Country Park, and that was the last sighting we have of him.
And just lastly, you may have had a potentially important sighting a couple of days before the shooting.
That's right. Around about 7 p.m. on Friday the 24th, a male was seen in Clifton Country Park in a white Renault Kangoo van, similar to the one shown here. He's described as a white male, around about 5 foot 10 inches tall, late 30s to early 40s, wearing a black cap, a jacket, camouflage trousers, but interestingly, he was carrying a torch and a gun which is described as looking like an Uzi-style machine gun. Obviously, that's quite significant because of the closeness to the scene of the assault 2 days later.
Detective, thank you so much for those details. Well, if any of you watching have any information or were in the area at the time, please do get in touch on the usual numbers.
Tomorrow, new figures are expected to show a continued rise in the levels of recorded hate crime. Here tonight, we have a panel of experts, some with personal experience of what it's like to be on the receiving end. But first, a taster of the sorts of abuse they have to deal with on a daily basis. And I should warn you, this film contains very strong language from the start.
I have been called tranny, freak,
nigger, coon,
queer, faggot, puff,
wog,
elephant man, spastic.
Muslims are all terrorists.
monkey,
I should have been burnt alive at birth.
Die in hell.
jungle bunny.
Bottles thrown at me, stones thrown at me.
I've been spat at.
Physically attacked, intimidated.
A guy in a nightclub come and try and rip my face off because he thought I was wearing a mask.
What haven't I been called?
Purely for no other reason than me just being who I am.
And I think I'm one of the lucky ones. Because I haven't ended up with a broken jaw or an eye popped out or broken ribs. I think for that I'm lucky.
I was scared. I was in shock. It sort of went from 0 to 60 pretty quick. Just a pure hatred for gay people. The lad was calling me derogatory names to do with my sexuality, pointing it out, and then chose to beat me for it. Before I knew, he was thumping me. I could hear one of my friends pleading with him to stop.
The hate comes from a deep sense of fear. And in order to rid yourself of the fear, you have to destroy that thing that you're afraid of. I find that if sometimes when you have a general dispute with people, that the hate doesn't necessarily come out at the beginning. But I think when somebody gets to the point where they want to actually hurt somebody, they'll find the first obvious thing. And in my case, that would be my colour.
Hate is an incredibly loaded word. But there is an element of it being somewhat personal and targeted, and that makes it a lot more edgy. Yeah, I know I'm disabled. I'm not overly happy with it. I'm not overly happy with it either, if it makes you feel any better. But I can't change it. I've got to still live my life to the fullest, and I'm doing okay.
It's really changed over the years. It was more focused on your skin colour, your culture, and it's now focusing on religion and, you know, what your beliefs are. An old lady came up to me and said, "Oh, you got a bomb in your bag," and I was absolutely mortified. Muslims are decent people. You know, we're not all terrorists. I am not a terrorist. It's a thing where it's always on your mind, what's going to happen next?
When somebody tells you to your face that you disgust them and they find you to be an abhorrence, it's a personal thing. It's personal in that I represent a community, a population, which is other to that person's own experience of the world. We're no different. I'm just like you, like the person watching this in their living room.
I choose to express myself the way I do, and I wouldn't be happy if I didn't do so.
We are all humans. We all belong to the same human race.
But in the hierarchy of stuff, what we've got to look at is the fact that we're dealing with hate, nothing else.
Well, Adam Pearson and Rebecca Root from that film are here with me. Hello there. Alongside the police's UK lead on hate crime, Assistant Chief Constable Mark Hamilton, and Nazir Afzal, formerly of the Crown Prosecution Service. Thanks, all of you, for being here. Mark, we're expecting another rise in those hate crime statistics tomorrow. Is it because there's more hate crime, or is it because there's more reporting of the hate crime?
Well, certainly we feel that people are becoming more confident in reporting hate crime, and those figures, as alarming as they are actually far too low. The British Crime Service figures are far higher than the police figures. We think we're only getting at least 40%
really?
Of hate crime.
Well, why is that?
Because, firstly, I think there's a problem of definition, actually naming these crimes for what they are, specifying it about your race, your religion, your transgender, disability. And people are not actually declaring these for what they are at the time. And secondly, then, there's about confidence to come forward, confidence to report. Mm. And if you're a victim of this type of crime, it's quite difficult to come to somebody in uniform and say what's happened to you. Mm. The police are working for many years to try and help this situation. And hate crime is reported far more prevalently here in the UK than anywhere else in the world, probably, but we've a long way to go.
And Adam, you face this kind of discrimination on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
What can we do to change that?
Well, I don't think there's one thing we can pull out in isolation and look at this as kind of the issue. I think it's systemic from top to bottom. Mm. I think people with disabilities need to be aware of their rights in order to exercise them, and they need to also feel they're going to be taken seriously by the police. I think there needs to be greater training with the police to actually ask. A lot of people are embarrassed to ask about disability, and until officers can get over that, then the crime isn't recorded right from the outset. And
so do you think then it's seen differently, perhaps, to race and religious crimes?
Well, I think like the prosecution uplift and etc. are a whole separate issue. I just think disability is the one last taboo that we're frightened to ask about. And unless you record something as a hate crime at the point of reporting, you can't then upgrade it further down the line when it comes to prosecution.
Right. I mean, Rebecca, you've also faced these sorts of hate crimes. Is it also about a cultural shift, as well as the authorities, the judiciary, the police, etc., changing?
Yeah, I think so. I think for my own experiences, they tailed off the further into my post-transitional phase I was. When one is transgender and transitions is a very visible change, a process of change at that point, and that's when the trans person is most likely to stand out as being trans. Obviously, the further down the line you go, you know, there's a sort of less of a visibility, I suppose. For me, I think I work with a group called Gendered Intelligence, which works with young people, and we go to schools. I mentor young trans people, and I go to schools, sixth form colleges, and I talk to young people who are exploring gender identity, the notions of gender, and I think at that level, people then will start having conversations about otherness.
Mark, we heard at the beginning that you think these figures are actually far higher than the
Yes.
reported official statistics. And Nazir, I wonder whether you think there are enough resources to cope if people do come forward.
That's a challenge. And to take Adam and Rebecca's point, this is an attack on you as a person. It's not an attack on you for the things you do, the things you say. It's about you as a person. And that's what makes it so pernicious. That's why the whole community is impacted when an attack on you takes place or abuse takes. And we are facing challenges across every agency about trying to make sure you do the job really well. But this is such an impactful crime. And these are crimes, that it needs that kind of specialism. It needs those people to work hard on it to protect people like Adam and Rebecca and all of us. I'm a victim. We're all being victims of this. But the answer, Sean, is to work together on this, to give people confidence, to give people the hope and expectation they'll be taken seriously.
OK, thank you, all of you.
Thank you.
And if you're interested in more information about support groups who are working with hate crime victims, then please do see our website. Still to come tonight. The hunt for the man who raped a 21-year-old woman in broad daylight.
Hi, you all right?
It's so awful. I just don't want this to happen to anyone else.
But first tonight, this month's CCTV roundup, starting with a shocking attack on a disabled pensioner. The early hours of a Monday morning in July this year, and this disabled pensioner was struggling to make his way home through Doncaster town centre.
I was born with mild cerebral palsy on the left side. It's only in the last sort of 18 months that I've found I've had to use a stick as much of balance as anything else.
But he wasn't alone. This smoking man was hanging around, watching his every move. As John turned the corner, the thug followed him, crept up behind and thumped him hard, knocking him to the ground.
I felt this blow, and it almost felt like the floor had come up and hit me, not the other way. The next thing I remember was him standing over me, demanding money.
As John lay helpless on the floor, the lowlife stole his wallet and ran off.
Now I think twice about going out after dark. I mean, why shouldn't I be able to walk home from a few hours in the pub with friends?
Do you recognise John's attacker? "6 a.m. outside a hotel in Bloomsbury in London in September last year, and this waitress was taking a break. Two men walked past and seemed interested in the phone she was holding.
I didn't see them, and I just saw one man asking me for a lighter. I didn't know what to do.
Suddenly, the other man leant over and tried to snatch the phone, punching Anka with huge force as she fought back.
I don't imagine how someone can come and just start to slap someone or to hit her.
He grappled with Anka before grabbing her bag, and then he hit her again.
Sometimes I'm getting scared. I still have this feeling that someone is behind me and he's trying to do something.
Who is responsible? Names, please. Also in CCTV this month, January at a nightclub in Oxford, and this reveller was being shown the door by security staff. He was escorted out, but he wasn't happy, and minutes later, as the employee returned to work, he ran after him. the determined clubber followed the doorman up the stairs. Desperate to get back inside, he grabbed the security man and threw him down the stairs. The fall fractured and dislocated the employee's shoulder. As the doorman lay injured, the man calmly walked past him and left. Can you name this disgruntled clubber? It was almost rush hour on a busy train at Clapham Junction in May. A passenger brought his bike on board, but he'd already been told by staff to move it to a quieter part of the train. Later, they asked him to move it again, further down the carriages. The cyclist then suddenly lunged at the train worker. He hit him to the head. Bleeding badly, the worker tried to calm the irate cyclist, who then picked up his bike and left the train. The victim was left with several cuts, including one to his eye, which needed 5 stitches. Can you name this punching peddler? And remember, you can take another look at tonight's faces and CCTV by pressing red on your remote. And of course, all on the Crimewatch website. Call and text the numbers on screen if you can help.
Now to the horrific attack on a young woman in Liverpool. The 21-year-old was on her way to her boyfriend's house when she was followed, dragged into bushes and raped. Thankfully, we have some incredibly clear CCTV of the police's prime suspect. Now, there will be people watching tonight who know who he is. First, let's hear the victim's story. Her words are spoken by an actor.
All I keep thinking about is, am I going to get back to what I was? My true self? I just don't know when I will be. I was out with my friends for the night in the clubs and some bars in Liverpool.
Oh, I love this song.
I know. It's just nice to go out and catch up with the girls.
Thank you, cheers.
We're all working all the time. It's hard to make time for each other. It sounds so silly, but I actually love working. I work quite a lot, and then I love to go out. We'll always be on the dance floor. We'll never really be sitting down. I was just having fun. We love to dance. It was quite late on in the night, and I turned around to my friend and was like, I'm going to go to my boyfriend's. It's getting late. That's usually what we do after nights out. Bye, love. See you later. I left the club and walked home. I was messaging my boyfriend, letting him know I was going to come. I got home and packed a bag for the next day. Okay, no worries. Then I rang for taxis, but because town was so busy, there were no taxis available.
Hi, have you got any taxis, please?
I kept trying and was like,
Okay,
I'll just walk. Because I've done that so many times. So I started walking towards my boyfriend's house. By the time I got up near the park, it was quite light. I was messaging my boyfriend, but my battery was about to go. I usually go a certain route through the park, but this day I didn't. There's a little street you go through to get to Beaumont Street. I was running because it was so quiet. I wasn't really looking. I came near the top of Beaumont Street. All of a sudden, I knew there was someone behind me. I sort of sensed when he was quite close. I was thinking, should I run? Then all of a sudden, I just remember him being there, his face.
Hi, you all right?
I remember there being some sort of conversation from him, but I don't remember what he said. I wasn't thinking what was happening. I was just focused on undoing my shoe, because I thought, if I could unbuckle them, then I can push him off and I can run. I wasn't able to. My whole body went weak. I was shouting out, please don't, I'm a virgin. I thought that would have stopped him, but it didn't. It was almost like he kind of walked away as if nothing had happened. I went to grab my bag and I just threw it down. I was so weak. I grabbed my phone, threw off my shoes and just ran. I was running down the street, roaring my boyfriend's name. I told him what happened, and he rang the police. There's days when I feel so down for no reason. I'm quite good at brushing things under the table, but this... in a way, it doesn't matter because the fear has been put in me. That's it now. But if he's caught, then I won't be looking at every person thinking, is that him? It's so awful. I just don't want this to happen to anyone else.
Well, Detective Inspector Terry Davis is leading this investigation. He joins me now. This is a horrendous experience for this young woman. What do we know about her offender?
Well, she describes him as a black male, skinny build, late 20s to early 30s, with a foreign accent.
Right, so we don't know much about him. We do, though, have some quite significant CCTV.
We certainly do. In this segment of CCTV, we see someone who matches that description, walking next to the victim. Now, this section of CCTV happened just moments before the actual attack.
Very early in the morning, but you also have CCTV from earlier on in the evening.
Yes, we do. We have the man who we believe is our main suspect. Earlier on in the evening, around various locations in Liverpool, we can get a clearer view of his clothing, which include light jeans and a jumper which is either beige or grey, with a very distinctive red Marvel Comics logo.
Talk us through the route that they took.
OK. Well, around about 6:16, believe that this is the first time that our suspect actually sees the victim, and this is in the Crown Park area. Now, the victim walks around the outside of the park, but the suspect walks through the middle of it. And we believe they actually meet each other in the Upper Parliament Street area. We then see them on CCTV in Lawton Street and then Beaumont Street at the scene of the attack. Now, it was raining heavily that morning, and we would have the victim would have been wearing a jacket over her head as she was walking along. Now, if anyone can remember that, we'd like to hear from them.
You're looking for anyone who can help, aren't you? Any witnesses?
Absolutely. I mean, we have on the CCTV, we've located one possible witness, which is at 6:13 in the Myrtle Street area. We see the suspect be very close to a cyclist. It was difficult to see from this distance whether they actually engaged in a conversation. Well, if you are that cyclist and you did speak to him, or if you know who he is, please get in touch.
Many thanks for that. As we heard that young woman say, she's still very frightened. We need to know who this man is. Take another look. If you know who he is, we do need to hear from you. Please pick up the phone and dial 0500 600 600. And remember, if you have been a victim of crime, you can call the victim support line. Here's the number: 0808 16 89 111. Still to come tonight. 18 years after she vanished, how police proved who killed mother of two Jane Harrison, even though her body has never been found.
There was no reason for her to go missing.
Yes! I'm sorry. You know what? I cannot...
With the domestic abuse background, it became quite clear he was a suspect.
More faces now, starting with 25-year-old Vladimir Lunkov. He was jailed in 2008 for a series of sexual assaults and burglary offences. But in May this year, he absconded from Leyhill prison. Has been on the run ever since. Originally from Russia, but his friends and family in London. Also has a scar on the middle finger of his left hand. Next up, 29-year-old James Ricardo Wilson, although this may not be his real name. Detectives in the West Midlands want to talk to him in relation to numerous offences of violence, theft and criminal damage, including one where a stun gun was used on a female victim. Wilson has a scar on the right side of his face. He also has links to Birmingham, London and Essex. This man is described as dangerous. If you know where he is, dial 999. Number 7 tonight is this man, Ali Hassan Sawyer. The 59-year-old was released on police bail after being questioned in connection with the possession of indecent images of children, but has since failed to return. He's originally from northern Cyprus, also has links to South London. And finally tonight, we have 62-year-old Stephen Anderson. He was due in court to face charges of fraud after an elderly woman was conned out of £32,000 of her life savings, but failed to turn up, and a warrant has been issued for his arrest. Anderson, also known as Cider Steve, has links to Kent, in particular Herne Bay, Whitstable, Faversham and Bromley. He works in the building trade, has scars on both arms from an industrial accident. If you know where any of these faces are, then do get in touch using the numbers on your screen. You can take another look on the Crimewatch website. They're all on the red button until midnight.
Now we have lots of updates this month, starting with the latest on the horrific rape of an 18-year-old woman in Leeds, which we featured in April. The whole shocking attack was caught on CCTV as she was snatched from a bus stop, hit repeatedly over the head with a rock and raped. Well, 21-year-old Zdenko Turtak has now pleaded guilty to rape and grievous bodily harm with intent. He's due to be sentenced next week. We're going to reveal the inside story of how detectives tracked him down to his native Slovakia and cracked the case. That's in next month's programme.
Back in 2012, we featured the murder of Bradford grandfather Clement Butch Desmier. The 68-year-old was found dead at his home in August of that year. Well, last month, detectives charged a 32-year-old man and a 20-year-old man with his murder and robbery. They were remanded in custody for a trial scheduled for March next year. We'll keep you updated on how things progress.
In January, we asked for your help in finding this man, Jonathan King. He went on the run during his trial for stealing more than £50,000 worth of antique silverware. Well, following the programme, he was tracked down to Kent, and in August, he belatedly started his 8-year prison sentence.
Your calls also helped put another Jonathan behind bars. This is Jonathan Royal. The 29-year-old was on the programme back in March, and as a direct result of information given that night, he was arrested shortly after in Plymouth in connection with drug dealing. Last month, he appeared before Leeds Crown Court and was sentenced to 5 years and 6 months in prison. A great result.
In October 2013, we showed you this man, Paul Knight, who was wanted by the National Crime Agency after more than 90 kilos of drugs were seized as they were smuggled through Birmingham Airport. Well, after the appeal, Knight handed himself in to officers and earlier this month was jailed for 10 years for his part in smuggling 21 shipments of drugs with a street value of more than £65 million.
And we end with a face from April's show. Ryan Humpage was wanted for questioning over a rape allegation in Lancashire. After a call to the programme, he was traced to Northern Ireland, where police found him sleeping in the back of a truck in County Antrim. He appeared in court in August, where, although the rape charge was dropped, he admitted 2 counts of sexual activity with a girl under 16. Humpage has been sentenced to 18 months in a young offenders institution.
Now, we look at the case of Jane Harrison, who one day in 1995 just disappeared. Her family were insistent from the start that she would never have left her children. And they were certain she'd come to harm. That's despite her body never having been found. But it would take 18 years and groundbreaking advances in mobile phone forensics to finally prove who her killer was.
When I knew Jane hadn't come home, I knew I'd never see her again. I knew he killed her. It's been 20 years and it's just horrendous. No one should have to suffer like this.
When mother of 2, Jane Harrison, disappeared in 1995, her family and the police were convinced she had been killed. But to this day, her body has never been found.
Jane was a devoted mother. She was a wonderful sister and she was a beautiful daughter. Growing up, we was constantly together. I mean, people was everywhere I was, Jane was, and vice versa.
Jane's partner had long been a cause of concern for her family. Kevin Doherty had been in a relationship with Jane for 3 years. The couple had a 1-year-old son, Taylor.
Mum.
14-year-old Ryan, Jane's first child, also lived at their flat in Islington in North London. But this was not the only place Doherty called home.
He was leading a double life. Was married. He had this family unit in Woodford. He had a job. But then in Islington, he seemed to have this other life with Jane and the 2 boys.
Jane often fell victim to Doherty's temper.
The first of it was the controlling, then the violence started, and I'd see her, you know, and she'd be hiding bruises and so on. But she hid a lot from us until it was pretty obvious that something was going drastically wrong.
There were occasions when Jane had to call the police to the address for incidents that had happened at home, and certainly Ryan, her eldest son, had witnessed incidents of domestic violence.
Yeah, bury you in Epping Forest.
He even threatened to kill her.
And never find you.
I know it's all last minute, but he's taken us away as a family.
However, on the day she vanished, Jane was feeling optimistic about the future.
Look, everything's going to be okay.
I received a call from Jane. She was quite excited. She said that her and Kevin had been having problems and he's been round and they're trying to make another go of it for the children's sake, and he's booked a holiday for them to go to Florida. And she said to me, but this is really a make or break there. So she was quite happy. She was busy, she was packing.
But that afternoon, the couple was seen arguing near Jane's flat.
We'll go through that again.
Later, they went to Wood Green shopping centre, where they took this snap in a photo kiosk. The pair were also caught on CCTV, the last known sighting of Jane. Jane's teenage son, Ryan, came home at about 8 p.m.
Where's Mum?
I dropped at your nan's.
Ryan said that Kevin seemed quite agitated that evening, and he persuaded Ryan to go to his girlfriend's house, which was quite out of character for Kevin to do that.
After giving him a lift, Doherty returned home and collected Taylor from the nearby babysitter.
When the neighbour was in the flat, there was a telephone call, and Kevin told the neighbour that it was Jane on the phone. And after Ryan came home from his girlfriend's, there was another phone call.
Just dropped the boy off.
Kevin said that she was on her way home.
Oh, yeah, you're...
But soon, he was calling Jane's sister Maxine to raise the alarm.
Yeah, ask them,
The minute he said she hasn't come home, that she was out drinking with her friends, I knew from that moment on I would never see my sister again.
Convinced that Jane had come to harm, her family pressurised Doherty to go to the police.
Kevin reported Jane missing in June 1995. Obviously, there were some concerns for her well-being.
Let's report missing persons.
We knew that she was a loving mother who wouldn't leave her children. She was very close to her family. There was no reason for her to go missing.
Pale complexion.
The information Doherty gave contained some worrying inaccuracies.
He described her as being pale. Jane had quite olive-coloured skin and dark brown hair, and he said that she had blue eyes, that she had more of a greeny-coloured eye.
And when questioned further, his account of the day Jane went missing didn't tally with CCTV or other people's timings.
Honestly, I can't
Officers also looked at the holiday to Florida he had booked and discovered it hadn't been paid for. Had he known, they'd never go.
With the domestic abuse background, he was a suspect.
Doherty was arrested on suspicion of abduction.
I think it became clear to the original investigation team that they were dealing with a murder. Everything seemed to point to Kevin, but what we didn't have is any substantial evidence.
Without having a body or any firm sightings of Jane, there was just never enough evidence to take it that one step further.
Frustratingly, the investigation had stalled. Jane's family continued to try everything to find the truth.
I don't care what anyone says. It doesn't matter that Jane was 32. That's still my mum's little girl.
Maxine even turned to psychics in the hope of locating Jane, without success. But in 2010, 15 years after Jane's disappearance, police re-examined the case. Doherty's mobile phone was to become the key to exposing his lies.
Back in 1995, it was very new how we used phone evidence, how we interpreted that phone evidence. 15 years on, we'd gained a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge.
Cell site analysis allows police to pinpoint where a phone call is made. It can even identify a phone's location when it isn't being used.
We were able to prove that a lot of the timings that Kevin had given us in the original investigation were actually wrong. Kevin actually said that he was in the Hoxton area looking for Jane, when actually the phone evidence suggested otherwise.
Doherty also claimed Jane had called the landline twice on the evening she disappeared, but the phone records told a different story.
The two phone calls that had been made into Jane's flat that night had actually both come from Kevin's mobile phone.
He actively went out of his way to give accounts that he knew were not true, so that he could prove that he was not the last person to see Jane alive.
Police finally had enough evidence to charge Doherty, even without Jane's body.
They have gone to Wood Green, to the shopping centre there.
I didn't even say that.
They've come out of there, some argument has taken place. Things have got out of hand, and I think that is when Kevin has then killed Jane. Kevin has taken one of the windows of opportunities he's had that night to dispose of Jane in probably one of the many lockups that he was responsible for. He's then gone back to the home and then given reasons to actually go back out, and this is potentially where he could have disposed of Jane's body.
In 2013, a jury concluded Kevin Doherty unlawfully killed Jane Harrison and disposed of her body. He was convicted of manslaughter and jailed for 12 years. But for Jane's family, the story is far from over.
It's just horrendous. It makes me feel sick to my stomach, the fact that he knows he could put us out of our misery.
Every day for 20 years it's been pain of not knowing and wondering.
That's not how your life's meant to end. You're not meant to be disposed of and no one knows where you are. You're meant to be put to rest, peace. We'll have peace then.
It destroys you inside. It takes every bit of you out of you. And we just pray that we do find her.
Well, her killer may be behind bars, but the search for Jane's body continues. And indeed, there's a £10,000 reward for information that will lead to her discovery. That will allow her family to finally lay her to rest. Full details, including images of the car that Doherty was using at the time, are on our website. Please do call the studio now if you can help. Or, of course, you can speak anonymously to Crime Stoppers, and they're on 0800 555 111. Just time now for a final check on your calls with Jason.
Yes, the latest on the Paul Massey murder. Remember, he was shot outside his home in Salford. Some very good calls coming in. Lots of people phoning in with information. A reminder that £50,000 reward is up for information which leads to the arrest and conviction of people or persons responsible. On the CCTV Oxford door staff attack, good calls, including a possible name. Thank you for that. And on wanted face number 4, Bayo Aranorin, lots of potential sightings. Thank you very much. Keep those calls coming.
And that's everything for now. Please remember, do take a look at the Crimewatch website. It contains all of tonight's appeals and the police incident room telephone numbers. You can also have another look at the wanted faces and CCTV on the red button. That's available until midnight. Our phone lines will be staying open until midnight tomorrow. We'll be back with an update after the news tonight at 10:40, although viewers in Northern Ireland will have to wait until 11:25. We will, of course, also keep you up to date with the latest developments on Twitter. Follow at BBC Crimewatch. Thank you so much for all your calls so far from everyone here. Goodbye.